disclose upfront than waiting until you bring this art card and then get rejected. So because I'm on the crew that approves the art cards on the flyer, you have one chance. So when you come for the inspection, they will ask you, are you ready for the inspection? And you say, yes. And then all sorts of things not happening. So you have one shot at it. And so you better come prepared. And so as a DMV group, we've been talking about it. Should we give the owner second chance to come back later on Wednesday or Thursday and try to fix whatever was not fixed and come back again? But in the peak hours, we're there as volunteers for 5 hours straight. And it's nonstop vehicles. So it's really difficult to have somebody come back at the peak hours.
I know there are many people who choose to outsource some or all of this job. What are your thoughts about trying to take on as much as you can yourself versus going to skilled people to do parts that you don't know, whether that's the lighting or the sound or welding or prefab the whole thing? I know some people just buy completed.
I took it as a learning experience. I was able to get connected with a welder who showed me how to weld and brought in some materials. And now I kind of left that experience knowing how to, fuse metal together. And we're able to make a really strong cage around the golf cart that held everything together. So it's kind of a cool learning experience too.
Yeah, that was the one thing that, was it 9 years ago, 10 years ago when I went to Burning Man, was for the first time.
A partner who knows what they're doing. So the golf cart was already a massive, massive undertaking, and it's nights and weekends, and I can't do it in 2 hours before Burning Man. It took me 9 months to get this done. And so know that if you have a partner with the expertise, but then to answer your question, I think it's better to do it yourself, because when it fails somewhere yourself, and so you can trace it to the issue. But if someone delivers you a car like this, there's a group of ladybugs in the playa, which is a rental cars, and everybody's looking up and it's like, oh, it's a rental. So if something goes wrong with those, it's really hard for you to know what's going on. So.
What is it too late if I wanted to get started for this year's Burning Man? Is 9 months the incubation period? Is it a year? How long does it take?
I don't know, Pete. How quickly can we make it? That's a question.
We've got a car and a half to build, so yeah, we'll let you know. I think that really depends on your project.
We'll see. I just bought a Chevy truck, and I intend on having a herd of elephants out there at some point and building a theme camp around it.
We're gonna have herds of alms
Yeah,
there.
let's come together.
We're gonna have a fight.
All different size elephants, so all with connected sound and lighting, and actually fully transformed, not rushed into this what we have today.
So it seems like that 10-month, 9-month period is like go to Burning Man, you get inspired. There's kind of an incubation period where you're like, hey, I think I want to do this. And then about November, December, you get the concept started and start making some drawings. And you could start then expecting to get the agreement from Burning Man to bring it to the playa. So then you got some structures built, you got your drawings made, and they're saying, hey, they're real. Let's bring them to the playa. So it's like 9 months. That's how long it took me to bring the first art car there. It was based on a geoprism, stripped it down, and by the time I was done, I had a mutant vehicle in August.
What are the opportunities to use your mutant vehicle outside of taking it to Burning Man?
So for me, I was just last night in the Auburn Light Parade, and the kids just love that little dragonfly. I bring the wings up over them while they're sitting on the sides, and they're like, they're trying to touch it. And so light parades, I bring it to Sacramento events like with the old Burn River Illuminart. We'd set it up as a static art piece. Weddings. Oh, at weddings, yeah, we brought it to John and Nikki's wedding. We had it sitting in the backyard, and they were getting pictures taken next to it. So, yeah.
Oh, any community events. So I brought mine to Mini Maker Fair in Rockland.
Oh, yeah.
And Berners on Broadway events. And yeah, kids love getting rides in these things. It's just the best for them. I had the line of like an hour late. So what happened at Brooklyn Mini Maker Fair, of course, my fan belt like disintegrated. And Natalie, bless her heart, brings me a spare belt at the very end of the event. Well, the kids immediately line up. And so you can't just leave the kids disappointed. So I drove them for an hour after the event just to give rides. So it's fun. It's fun to have it. It's real pain in the rear, but sometimes it's worth it.
And the maker fairs are fun because you made this thing, and then the other makers are coming there looking at your event or your car and like appreciating it because they're makers as well.
I want to turn to the audience and get some questions from them. But first, let's go down the line and other tips that you have that you've thought about, information people need to know if they want to embark on this.
So radically mutating it. I mean, not just slightly, just radical. It's like remote driving positions, hide the base vehicle, rip the base vehicle apart so you don't even see anything remaining on it. Make 3 wheels instead of 4 wheels. Make it 2-wheel drive or 2 wheels. I've seen these great big things that are kind of like stagecoaches and things like that. Build it out of steel, much easier to weld. There's tons and tons of tutorials on lighting now. The 10 years ago, the LEDs weren't as prevalent. Now they're just everywhere. You could get LED this, LED that, and it lights up bright. And pick a base vehicle that's really solid to begin with. That it's not, you've got a driving car that you're not going to have trouble with as your base vehicle.
Josh?
Repeat the question.
What's a tip, something the audience needs to know if they're going to build an art car?
Have a plan. It's okay if you don't stick to it. It kind of evolves.
Do you do like step-by-step plans? This is
yeah,
what
I have
I'm
a
doing
master
first?
plan. It's like a Google sheet, and I have all my ideas that are all super ADD, all exploded out, and then little sub ideas, and then I keep it all together. And by the time I'm done, it looks all right, I think, and I really just focused on the LED and the look of it rather than like hiding the tires and stuff like that because I didn't have time. So, but we had the disabled persons thing, so that worked.
Once again, just focus on your concept and realize that it's not going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect. You need to worry about the big stuff, and then you get the little stuff, and then eventually it comes together. And you're going to need resources. You're going to need a space to do it in. It really, again, depends on what you're trying to build, but most of it, you have to have time available. You have to have a space available. Those are the 2 biggest things that I see as the problem for most people.
Yeah, so warehouse space is a problem. Okay, so for any kind of reasonable size art car, you need about 400 square feet of warehouse space, desirable because you want to walk around it, you want to shuffle it about, you want to have your materials somewhere really hard to come by. Transportation, so you need a trailer. You need a trailer that works. I don't know, last year was a big problem with cops. Okay, I'm going to make it this way. Boom, a new part. Okay, and now I'm going to put this filter on. And that sounds like $20 here, $20 there, and then $3,000 later, you're still building it. So you need to have source of funding that is available to you for changing and rechanging it. And have a crew to help you out because it's not possible to do it on your own, I feel, at least for myself as a person with limited knowledge and skills, and have a perseverance because it will be such a despair will overcome you at some point of time. And you cry and tear your hair out. And like, I can't do this anymore. But then you pick up the pieces and you start continuing on and you get it done eventually.
All right, I'm interested in hearing any questions from the audience here. Here we go.
So you talked a little bit about budget, crowdsourcing, putting something out on Craigslist. Where do you get the car from? Just wait for someone that happens to have a car they're getting rid of, and then all of a sudden jump on it and turn it into an art car.
Yeah, Facebook. Yeah.
Okay.
Facebook Marketplace is really good nowadays for picking up a piece that we drove all the way to Vallejo pickup. So
You also talked about taking it to like Auburn
right.
Light Parade. Is there any kind of DMV there as well that checks to make sure it's going to be safe and not run over a bunch of kids? It's got the brakes where they need brakes, and where they just pretty much, if it's got lights on it, they're happy.
I took my car to Vallejo Light Parade called Mad Hatter Parade. So we went yesterday. Now it's just like there's some even crazier vehicles there. You just like wonder if they how they even drive.
No, the Auburn Parade did not have any real like quality control. Just grab a Jeep and put some Christmas lights on there and call it good. Other parades may have a little higher quality control.
I mean, sometimes at some of the Maker Fair events and other things, because there's crowds around, if you have to have fire effects or flame effects on board, the fire department will come and check to see if you have the proper plumbing parts and that the certified propane hoses and things like that, because they don't want something to explode and cause trouble. But other than flame inspections, I've never really had any of the other things get close and like, hey.
Let's talk about the goodies. How do you what are the rules around flame? How much lights can we get on there, and how much sound can you pack into your mutant vehicle? How important is that to you?
So the more light, the better. So yeah.
You can only have
If you had a big enough idea, you could put together a crowdsourcing campaign, get enough people involved, and you could rent a space. And then you could maybe just have even if you didn't do that, you could have build days. You could park the thing in your driveway and then just have a build day at a designated space, once a month, and then slowly build this idea of yours, every, and have it redesigned and have a new crew come out in another month and build it but then store it or something like that. So you don't always need a space to store it like 100% of the time.
Right. Not everybody's building Monte Carlo. So.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen people get those Costco 20 by 10 garages stored in that when you're not working on it off to the side of the house or something, so it doesn't get rained on, and then pull it out into the driveway to work on it, build, put it away for the week, and then bring it out for the weekend and work on it again. Just to have some place to store it, because around here during the winter, you don't want to get rained on.
And there's a street in Carmichael you can drive down and see a giant rubber ducky in somebody's yard.
Right.
Pretty, like, we all know her. But just driving along, you see the art car and you're like, oh, I probably know them.
Well, I live in the middle of the city. I don't even have a garage. And so warehouse space was a big problem. So for the whole year, I was driving to Walnut Grove to be in the warehouse space there. And I just left that warehouse. I'm looking closer to Sacramento, but it's a challenge.
So I wouldn't say it's a priority for SVS, but it's something we are interested in looking at, in trying to create a space for ourselves. And we've looked to Reno and what's happening up there and starting to think, why not here? But we need to build the organization and the structure and then find a business model that works. And we'd like to get to the point where we can build and store art cars and facilitate more of this happening.
That was a phenomenal place on Treasure Island with some of the old buildings that were there. There was these old, the Robo Heart was based there, and the the different artisan Bliss art and things like that. It was all in one warehouse, and you just like walk through there, and here's all these old art cars and old things all staged in there, just in storage, ready to come out.
Even Ed and I had kicked around an idea about a group membership kind of a thing where everybody in the community that would be interested, say, everyone in this room, for example, there's 50 people. We all paid $50 a month in a membership. We could rent the space. We could all have a co-working space, a place to store our tools. My friend John, with a welder, would keep his plasma cutter there because he doesn't have a space at home to use it. Everyone comes together and has a big warehouse and can park our art cars and build them together. Kind of like a fusion of what they have in Reno at the Generator, and then NIMBY out in Oakland. I think Sacramento needs a space like that, and it would be cool to be able to facilitate people's ideas and make bigger art and have the tools and the resources all in one place with a small membership fee that provides a good enough value for that said fee.
Yeah, and this is kind of how this event started. I came to UpCycle Pop last year, and Shira essentially negotiated this space and said, hey, you're not using this space. Can we do stuff there? And when you've got a buyer, we'll move on, and no harm, no foul. This space obviously doesn't have roll-up doors or things that we'd look for in building art cars can be utilized, but we've got to sort of put a plan together to make that happen. Again, for everybody for being on the panel. If you've got any parting shots, let's go with it. But again, I appreciate you everybody being here. Parting shots, ideas, thoughts.
Imagination and perspiration.
Yeah, I mean,
Perseverance.
this is really why I wanted to start off this way, because at Burning Man and a lot of places, mutant vehicles are a great source of inspiration and wonder, and the ideas that are expressed through metal and light and a vehicle are pretty amazing, whether it's Pupo Mecanico or the sailing ship. There's some pretty amazing art cars, mutant vehicles out there, and I would love to see Sacramento pushing the envelope in that area too. Let's hear it for the panel. Thank you very much. So if you want to come up and ask them any questions, whatnot, they'll be around. Also, Josh will be assembling his vehicle. Ohm is out front, and no butterfly here.